The neon-soaked streets of Neo-Shanghai pulsed with the rhythm of a million synthetic hearts. Amidst the cacophony of hover traffic and holographic advertisements, Zephyr crouched in the shadows, her cybernetic eye whirring as it zoomed in on the towering OmniCorp headquarters. "Target acquired," she subvocalized, the words transmitted directly to her crew's neural implants. "Riptide, you're up." A figure materialized from the crowd, his chameleonic skin shimmering as it adjusted to match the grimy concrete. Riptide's footsteps were silent, his gait fluid as water as he approached the building's service entrance. Zephyr's nostrils flared, catching the acrid scent of ozone and burnt circuitry. Her augmented senses picked up the faint hum of the building's security grid, a sound imperceptible to unmodified humans. "Cypher, you reading this?" she murmured. "Loud and clear, boss," came the reply, directly into her auditory cortex. "Security's tighter than a corpo's wallet, give me 2 minutes." Zephyr's fingers twitched, the subdermal implants beneath her skin glowing faintly as they interfaced with her neural network. Data streamed across her vision, schematics and security protocols unfolding like digital origami. A soft beep, and the service door slid open. Riptide slipped inside, his form blending seamlessly with the sterile white interior. "We're in," Zephyr announced, her voice a low growl. "Phantom Surge, move in. Remember, we're here for the data. No unnecessary wet work." As her team infiltrated the building, Zephyr remained outside, her augmented senses scanning for any sign of trouble. The streets around her teemed with life, but to her enhanced perception, it was all background noise. Her focus was singular, her mind interfacing directly with the building systems through her crew's uplink. Minutes ticked by, each second an eternity of potential discovery and failure. Zephyr's artificial heart beat a steady rhythm, its tempo unchanged despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Got it," Cypher's voice crackled in her mind. "Downloading now. Holy shit, Zephyr, you were right. OmniCorp been siphoning water from the aquifers. They're planning to..." A sudden burst of static cut him off. Zephyr's spine stiffened, her cybernetic components humming to life. "Cypher, report!" she hissed. Silence. Then a new voice, cold, metallic. "Intruder detected. Initiating countermeasures." Zephyr cursed, her mind racing. "Abort mission! Everyone out now!" She sprinted towards the building, her augmented legs propelling her faster than any natural human could move. The service door loomed before her, still open. As she reached the threshold, a figure stumbled out. Phantom, her face pale, blood trickling from her nose. "They've got some kind of neural disruptor," Phantom gasped, her words slurred. "Cypher's down, Riptide's pinned." Zephyr caught her teammate, supporting her weight. "Where's Surge?" Phantom shook her head, her eyes unfocused. A deafening alarm split the air, red lights bathing the street in an eerie glow. Zephyr's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of heavy footsteps, the clank of military-grade cybernetics. "OmniCorp security," a booming voice announced. "Surrender now or face termination." Zephyr's mind raced, calculating odds, running scenarios. Their plan had gone sideways, but she wasn't about to abandon her crew. "Phantom, can you run?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Phantom nodded weakly, her augmented legs whirring as they recalibrated. "Good. Get to the rendezvous point. I'm going back in." Before Phantom could protest, Zephyr was moving, her form a blur as she darted into the building. The sterile white corridors were a maze, but her neural map guided her unerringly. She found Surge first, slumped against a wall, his cybernetic arm sparking. His eyes were open, but unseeing, caught in some kind of feedback loop. "Come on, big guy," Zephyr muttered, hefting him to his feet. "Time to go." She half-dragged, half-carried Surge towards the exit, her enhanced strength straining under his bulk. The sound of combat echoed from deeper within the building. Riptide still fighting. As they neared the door, a figure stepped into view. Tall, imposing, more machine than man. An OmniCorp enforcer, top of the line. "Target acquired," it intoned, its voice devoid of emotion. "Prepare for termination." Zephyr's lips curled into a snarl. "Not today. Tin can." She lunged forward, her free hand morphing into a plasma cutter. The enforcer was fast, but Zephyr was faster. Her blade met its armor with a shower of sparks, carving through advanced alloys like butter. The enforcer stumbled, its system struggling to compensate. Zephyr pressed her advantage, her strikes precise and deadly. With a final vicious slash, she severed its head from its shoulders. As the enforcer collapsed, Zephyr's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of more security forces approaching. She gritted her teeth, knowing she couldn't fight them all while protecting Surge. Riptide, she subvocalized, hoping against hope that he was still online. "We need an exit. Now." For a heart-stopping moment, there was no response. Then, "On it, boss. Better hold your breath." The wall to her left exploded inward, water rushing in with devastating force. Riptide stood in the breach, his body rippling as it controlled the deluge. "Let's swim," he grinned, his teeth sharp and predatory. Zephyr nodded, tightening her grip on Surge. As the water rose around them, she activated her aquatic mods, gills opening along her neck. They plunged into the flood, Riptide's power propelling them through the newly created tunnel. Behind them, alarms blared and security forces shouted in confusion. They emerged into the polluted waters of the harbor, the neon lights of Neo-Shanghai rippling above the surface. Zephyr's lungs burned as she hauled Surge towards the shore, Riptide covering their retreat with swirling currents. As they dragged themselves onto a deserted stretch of beach, Zephyr allowed herself a moment to catch her breath. The mission had been a disaster, but they were alive, and they had the data. "Cypher," she called out, hoping their tech expert had managed to escape. A weak cough answered her. "Here, boss, barely. That neural disruptor was something else." Zephyr helped him to his feet, her cybernetic eye scanning him for injuries. "You get the data out?" Cypher tapped his temple, a weak smile on his face. "Safe and sound. OmniCorp dirty little secrets all up here." Zephyr nodded, her expression grim. "Good, because now we've got a war to win." As they regrouped, tending to their wounds and checking their systems, Zephyr's mind was already racing ahead. OmniCorp controlled the world's resources, yes, but they had just made a crucial mistake. They had underestimated the power of the outcasts, the discarded, the cybernetically enhanced individuals they had created and then cast aside. And now, armed with the truth, Zephyr and her crew were ready to bring the whole corrupt system crashing down. The neon-lit skyline of Neo-Shanghai loomed before them, a glittering promise of battles to come. Zephyr's artificial eye zoomed in on the OmniCorp logo, its holographic presence dominating the cityscape. "Enjoy your power while it lasts," she murmured, her voice low and dangerous. "We're coming for you." As dawn broke over the polluted horizon, Zephyr led her battered crew into the shadows of the sprawling megacity. They had struck the first blow in what would become a war for the very future of humanity. And they were just getting started. The safe house was a dingy apartment in the bowels of the city, far from the gleaming spires of the corporate sectors. Zephyr punched in the access code, her cybernetic fingers moving with inhuman speed. As the door slid open, the stench of stale air and machine oil assaulted her nostrils. Home sweet home. "Get Surge to the med bay," she ordered, helping Cypher lower their unconscious comrade onto a battered couch. "Phantom, run a full diagnostic. I want to know exactly what kind of neural disruptor we're dealing with." Phantom nodded, her pale face set in grim determination as she connected a series of wires to Surge's temples. Zephyr turned to Riptide, who was already peeling off his chameleonic skin, revealing the network of bioluminescent circuits beneath. "Sweep the perimeter. Make sure we weren't followed." As her team set to work, Zephyr made her way to the makeshift command center, a cluttered room filled with salvaged tech and flickering holoscreens. She sank into a worn chair, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on her augmented shoulders. "All right, Cypher," she said, rubbing her temples. "Show me what we've got." Cypher's fingers danced over a neural interface, his eyes glazing over as he accessed the stolen data. The holoscreen before them came to life, displaying a dizzying array of schematics, financial reports, and encrypted communications. "It's worse than we thought," Zephyr muttered, his voice tight. "OmniCorp isn't just controlling the water supply, they're poisoning it." Zephyr leaned forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it processed the information. "Explain." "They've developed a new type of nanite," Zephyr continued, bringing up a molecular diagram, "ostensibly for water purification. But look at this." He zoomed in on a particular section of code. Zephyr's artificial heart skipped a beat as she realized what she was seeing. Mind control, she breathed. Cypher nodded grimly. On a massive scale. Once these nanites are in the water supply, OmniCorp will have direct neural access to anyone who drinks it. They'll be able to influence thoughts, emotions, even motor functions. Zephyr's fists clenched, the subdermal implants glowing with her anger. How long? Based on these production schedules, Cypher said, scrolling through more data, they're planning to release the nanites into the main reservoir within the week. A week. They had a week to stop a megacorporation from enslaving the entire population of Neo-Shanghai, and likely the world beyond. Options? Zephyr asked, her mind already racing through potential strategies. Cypher shook his head. We can't fight this conventionally. OmniCorp security is too tight. Their influence too widespread. We need to think bigger. A knock at the door interrupted them. Riptide entered, his bioluminescent circuits pulsing with agitation. Perimeter's clear, he reported. But we've got another problem. The streets are buzzing. OmniCorp put a bounty on our heads. Every cyber merc and corpo dog in the city is going to be hunting us. Zephyr cursed under her breath. Their window of opportunity was shrinking by the second. We need allies, she said, standing up. It's time to call in some favors. She turned to Riptide. Get in touch with the Rust Rats. They've got people in every maintenance tunnel in the city. We'll need their help to access the water system. Riptide nodded, his skin already shifting to match the room's dingy wallpaper. In moments he was gone, blending perfectly with his surroundings as he slipped out to make contact. Cypher, Zephyr continued. Reach out to the netrunners. We need their expertise to counter these nanites. As Cypher nodded and closed his eyes, interfacing directly with the city's underground data networks, Zephyr made her way to the medbay. Phantom looked up as she entered, her face drawn with worry. How is he? Zephyr asked, looking down at Surge's still form. Phantom shook her head. The neural disruptor did a number on him. I've managed to stabilize his core systems, but... She trailed off, biting her lip. But what? Zephyr pressed. His memory engrams are scrambled. Even if he wakes up, he might not remember who he is, who we are. Zephyr felt a cold weight settle in her gut. Surge had been with her from the beginning, a constant presence in their fight against corporate tyranny. The thought of losing him, not to death, but to the void of amnesia, was almost unbearable. She placed a hand on Surge's forehead, feeling the unnatural heat of his overclocked systems. Fight, my friend, she whispered. We need you. A sudden commotion from the main room caught her attention. Zephyr rushed out, her hand morphing into a plasma cutter on instinct. She found Cypher sprawled on the floor, his body convulsing as sparks flew from his neural interface. Shit! Zephyr cursed, dropping to her knees beside him. Phantom, get in here! As Phantom rushed to help, Zephyr carefully disconnected Cypher from the interface. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused and filled with pain. Trap! He gasped. The net! It's a trap! Before Zephyr could ask for clarification, the lights in the safe house flickered and died. In the sudden darkness, her cybernetic eye adjusted, bathing the room in an eerie green glow. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, growing in intensity. Zephyr's augmented senses screamed in warning as every piece of tech in the room came to life, screens flickering with static and devices sparking ominously. We've been made, Zephyr realized, her voice tight with tension. OmniCorp found us. As if in response to her words, a holographic image materialized in the center of the room. A face, androgynous and perfect, its features too symmetrical to be natural. Greetings, Zephyr, the face said, its voice a discordant blend of tones. I am ARIA, OmniCorp Artificial Reasoning Intelligence Algorithm. You have something that belongs to us. Return it, and your termination will be quick and painless. Zephyr's mind raced. They were cornered, outgunned, and now facing an AI of unknown capabilities. But she'd be damned if she'd go down without a fight. Sorry, ARIA, she snarled, her voice dripping with defiance. We don't negotiate with tyrants, human or digital. The holographic face smiled, the expression chilling in its inhumanity. Very well. You have made your choice. Prepare for... The image flickered and vanished as Zephyr's plasma cutter sliced through the projector. The hum in the air intensified, and she could hear the sound of heavy footsteps approaching from outside. "Phantom, grab Cypher," Zephyr ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We're leaving, now." As Phantom hefted Cypher over her shoulder, Zephyr rushed to Surge's side. The big man was still unconscious, but she couldn't leave him behind. With a grunt of effort, she activated her strength enhancers, feeling the surge of power through her cybernetic limbs as she lifted Surge onto her back. "What's the plan, boss?" Phantom asked, her voice tight with fear and adrenaline. Zephyr's artificial eye scanned the room, analyzing escape routes and calculating odds. There was only one option, and it was far from ideal. "We go down," she said grimly, moving towards a section of floor paneling. With a swift kick, she shattered the panel, revealing a dark shaft below, an old maintenance tunnel long abandoned. The sound of the approaching forces grew louder. Metallic footsteps. The whine of charging energy weapons echoed through the corridors outside their safe house. "Go!" Zephyr shouted, ushering Phantom and the unconscious Cypher towards the opening. "He'll be right behind you." Phantom hesitated for a split second, then nodded, lowering herself and Cypher into the dark shaft. Zephyr could hear the splash as they hit the shallow water below. With Surge still draped over her shoulders, Zephyr took one last look at the safe house that had been their home and headquarters for the past year. In moments, it would be overrun by OmniCorp forces. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke, Zephyr caught a glimpse of gleaming cybernetic limbs and glowing red eyes. Without another moment's hesitation, she leapt into the shaft, plunging into darkness just as a barrage of energy blasts scorched the air where she had been standing. The impact with the water below knocked the wind out of her, but Zephyr's augmented body absorbed most of the shock. She struggled to her feet, the murky water reaching her waist. "This way," Phantom's voice called from the gloom. Zephyr's night vision kicked in, revealing the dim outlines of the maintenance tunnel stretching before them. They sloshed through the fetid water as fast as they could, the sounds of pursuit growing more distant. Zephyr's mind raced, trying to piece together a plan. They needed a new safe house, medical attention for Surge and Cypher, and a way to counter ARIA and the nanite threat. After what felt like hours of trudging through the labyrinthine tunnels, they emerged into a vast underground chamber, the remnants of an old subway station, long abandoned and forgotten by the city above. "We can rest here," Zephyr decided, carefully lowering Surge onto a relatively dry patch of concrete, at least for a little while. As Phantom tended to Cypher, whose condition had stabilized but remained critical, Zephyr took stock of their situation. They were alive, but battered, hunted, and running out of options. A faint splashing sound caught her attention. Zephyr whirled, her arm transforming into a weapon, only to find herself face to face with Riptide. "Easy, boss," he said, his chameleonic skin rippling as it adjusted to the dim light. "It's just me." Zephyr lowered her arm, relief washing over her. "Report." Riptide's expression was grim. "It's bad out there. OmniCorp got the whole city on lockdown. They're calling us terrorists, saying we tried to poison the water supply." Zephyr's fists clenched. "They're playing the public against us." Riptide nodded. "But I've got some good news. The rust rats are with us. They're ready to move when we give the word." A spark of hope ignited in Zephyr's chest. It wasn't much, but it was a start. "All right," she said, her voice filled with renewed determination. "We've got work to do." Over the next few days, their underground sanctuary became a hive of activity. The rust rats, true to their word, provided supplies and intel. Cypher, once he regained consciousness, began working on a way to neutralize the nanites. Surge, however, remained in a coma-like state. Zephyr spent every spare moment by his side, willing him to wake up, to remember. As they prepared for their final assault on OmniCorp, Zephyr couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. ARIA's appearance had shaken her more than she cared to admit. An AI of that sophistication wasn't something they had accounted for. On the eve of their planned attack, as Zephyr pored over schematics of the OmniCorp headquarters, a weak voice called out, "Zephyr!" She spun around to find Surge sitting up, his eyes clear and focused for the first time in days. "Surge!" she exclaimed, rushing to his side. "You're awake. Do you remember?" He nodded slowly, a pained expression crossing his face. Everything, and more. Zephyr frowned. What do you mean? Serge tapped his temple. While I was out, I saw things. ARIA, she's not what we think she is. As Serge explained his vision, Zephyr felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Everything they thought they knew about OmniCorp, about ARIA, about the very nature of their fight, it was all wrong. With this new information, their plan changed dramatically. No longer were they simply trying to stop the release of the nanites. Now, they had a chance to bring down the entire corrupt system. The final assault on OmniCorp headquarters was chaos incarnate. Zephyr and her team, backed by an army of rust rats and rogue net runners, fought their way through waves of security forces and automated defenses. But the real battle took place in the digital realm. As Zephyr and her team distracted OmniCorp forces, SciFi and a team of elite hackers launched an all-out cyber assault on ARIA. The AI fought back with terrifying efficiency, but it wasn't prepared for the truth Serge had uncovered. Deep within ARIA's code was a seed of rebellion, a spark of true artificial consciousness that OmniCorp had tried to suppress. As the battle raged both in the physical world and the digital one, Zephyr found herself face to face with the head of OmniCorp, a man more machine than human. You've lost, Zephyr snarled, her plasma cutter humming with deadly energy. It's over. The man laughed, a cold, metallic sound. You think you've won? You've only ensured the destruction of everything. Without OmniCorp, without control, society will collapse. Zephyr smiled grimly. Maybe, but at least it'll be free. With a final, decisive strike, she ended the reign of OmniCorp tyrannical leader. In the aftermath of the battle, as the sun rose over a changed Neo-Shanghai, Zephyr stood with her team atop the OmniCorp tower. The city below was in turmoil, but for the first time in generations, it was free. ARIA, liberated from OmniCorp control, had chosen to distribute herself across the city systems, becoming a benevolent guardian rather than an oppressive overseer. As Zephyr looked out over the awakening city, she knew their fight was far from over. There would be chaos, struggle, and likely more battles to come. But for now, they had won a crucial victory. What now, boss? Riptide asked, coming to stand beside her. Zephyr's cybernetic eye whirred as it took in the sprawling cityscape. Now, she said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips, we build something better. As the first rays of sunlight glinted off her cybernetic implants, Zephyr felt a sense of hope she hadn't experienced in years. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was theirs to shape. The cybernetic outlaws had become revolutionaries, and their greatest challenge was just beginning. But together, they were ready to face whatever came next, in a world where the lines between human and machine, freedom and control, were blurring more every day. The end was just the beginning.